You know the sound, right? You know the drill. Self-scan, checkout, it's everywhere. In fact, in some stores, that's all there is. So are you a fan or not a fan?
Love it.
I like it when it's something quick, but I have gone to some grocery stores where no one is working any of the aisles, and I have a whole cart full of stuff, and I have to check everything out.
Right.
So I think if you have something quick, it's a good thing.
I love it all the way. I do it almost every time.
Really? I'm with Lauren. If I had like 10 items or less, like express checkout style.
Right.
then I'm
And I
okay
know
with it.
some people, they were like, why would anybody want to go through self-checkout? I'm like, sometimes A, you don't want to make conversation with somebody, right? Or B, you've got something that you're checking out with that you're like, I don't want to explain this.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Right, but then the flip side of that is like, let's say you're buying alcohol, then you have to wait for
Yes.
someone to come
Yes,
over.
For
and
sure.
then the
And
light
if
is
they're helping
buzzing.
someone
and
else.
Yes,
like,
now
that bottle of
that's
wine,
when I
it
go through.
sticks you
You're
there.
right. That's
Yeah.
when I go through the
All right, now some self-checkouts ask you another question besides how do you want to pay? You know, that's like debit or, you know, whatever. This is the question that they're asking. You ready? Let's look at it. Self-checkouts at cafes and airports, even some stores are now asking, would you like to leave a tip?
So tipping researchers say that people are much more likely to say yes than to say no when prompted with a tip when you're thinking about the people who are stocking the shelves, even if you're not actually seeing an employee.
Seriously?
Thoughts on that?
I don't do that.
I've never seen that come up as an option, but my first thought would be, who am I tipping? I'm checking my own
Yeah.
things out, because when I think of tipping, I think someone is providing me with a
service.
That's right.
I think that if someone were to ask me, I would feel peer pressured and I would do it.
Yes.
Okay, I would if someone was there. That would be harder to say no
Yep.
to.
But you can just say no on the like.
Yeah.
Because
on
you're
the sheet.
checking
I
yourself
still feel
out.
guilty though.
Yep, for sure.
And you know, they do that now even at like, I would say some gas stations and some other places where they're basically, all they're doing is basically handing you that, but it says, would you like to tip? Now, do you tip then? Because there's kind of a person behind the counter.
I'll say this, because I've done a 2 cents on this. There is a sense of guilt when you say no
agree.
tip, but I'm still sticking to, if you provide me with a service, like you wait my table or you delivered something, then I'll pay the tip,
I
because
agree.
beyond that, you're just doing your job,
your
because
job.
I'm not getting a tip to say the news. And it's not being harsh. I
Right.
just grew up to think you tip when someone is waiting on you.
I agree with that. I don't tip. Like if I'm at there's a sandwich shop that I love, and do you want a tip? And they're just making the sandwiches in a line like they do every day, and I usually don't.
Right.
Of course, when you do, they make a noise and ring some crazy bell, and then when the bell doesn't happen, everybody goes.
I guess they're going to keep on ringing when I come through.
Right.
And they're going to be like, Eric Children
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's a-
just didn't chip.
Yeah.
the TV
All right,
guy.
so the question that's also being brought up again and again is, if I'm putting it on the screen, but how do I know that the workers who are really getting it? You know how like you used to like give them the tip, right? All right, so let's listen to what the consumer behavior reporter found.
The companies I spoke to said that the tips are going to employees, but tipping researchers aren't so sure. Machines don't have the same protections as tipped human employees. So while the law requires that something called a tip has to go to employees, when you're tipping a machine, you can't be quite so sure.
Yeah, I mean, because back in the day, right, we would give you a tip,
Yeah.
but now a lot of us don't even carry cash anymore. So
like the tip
how are we
jar
get
used to
with
be a
the
thing.
tip jar, right?
Yeah.
And I'm
Or at a restaurant.
I think I'm much more willing to tip if I'm using a card, because using a card isn't real money in my head, right?
Right,
it's
yeah.
not
until later.
cash.
Yes,
right,
that's true.
Right. But at the time, though, I'm like, oh yeah,
Right.
just put it on the card.
They were super nice, 20% tip.
Right, yeah.
But now you're getting it for everything. Like, you know, the bug guy comes and they're like, would you like to do a tip? The lawn guy comes, would you like to do a tip? And you're just like, okay, where does this stop?
When does it stop?
One thing I
They
thought
read the
was
headlines.
really
Would you like to
interesting-
give the anchors a tip? I mean,
You can click right here.
I'll drop my cash
I was
app
recently
below.
at a Subway where it's a similar situation. You're going
Yeah.
to pay on the pad, and then you can do tip. And as I was going through it, the employee said, okay, just jump through the next one, just click no. So like she encouraged me to say no to the tipping
tip.
portion. So I wonder if maybe she understands the dilemma
feels a little
that we-
guilty,
that we
yeah.
face.
I almost think it takes away why we were even tipping to begin with. Because it almost seems like, well, why don't you just raise the prices of the service if we're looking for more money? Because I feel like the tip is because this person went the extra mile because they were waiting on you or serving you.
Right.
I don't know.
All right, here's a tip. Call your mom. Yeah, yesterday was Mother's Day, I know, but yesterday's call was obligatory. Tell me that you're calling her just 'cause,
Just to
right?
call.
Just
Tell
to
mom
say
that,
hi.
just to say hi.
We'll be
That's
back.
your tip.